Welcome back to the VybeShift Podcast. Take a breath with me, right here, right now. Let everything slow down for just a moment, because today we're not rushing into understanding. We are returning to something you may have forgotten, or perhaps something you have been avoiding. Today's episode is called What Changes When You Finally Start Listening to Yourself? And this isn't a surface level question. This is a life-altering one. Segment 1. The truth most people avoid. Most people don't actually listen to themselves. They react to themselves. They override themselves. They distract themselves. They silence themselves. And then they wonder, why does my life feel off? Why do I feel disconnected? Why does nothing seem to be truly aligned? Here's the truth. It's not that you don't know what to do, it's that you've stopped trusting the voice that does know. And over time, that voice doesn't disappear. It just gets quieter. Not because it's weak, but because it refuses to compete with noise. Segment 2. The two voices within you. There are always two voices within you. One is loud, urgent, reactive. It's shaped by fear, conditioning, and survival. It says things like, do this now. What will they think? You can't mess this up. You need to figure this out. And then there's the other voice, the one that doesn't shout, the one that doesn't rush, the one that simply knows. It doesn't argue. It doesn't panic. It doesn't need to prove itself. It just waits for you to listen. Segment 3. The moment everything begins to change. The moment you begin listening to yourself, not reacting, not overthinking, but truly listening, something subtle begins to shift. At first, it's almost unnoticeable. But then you start pausing more. You start questioning less. You start feeling into decisions instead of forcing them. And slowly, your life begins to reorganize itself. Not through effort, but through alignment. Segment 4. What actually changes? Let's talk about what actually changes when you begin listening to yourself. Because this is where it becomes real. Number 1, clarity replaces confusion. You stop needing constant input because you begin trusting your own insight. Decisions don't feel like pressure anymore. They feel like recognition. Number 2, peace replaces urgency. You no longer feel like you're chasing life. You feel like you're moving with it. The anxiety that once drove you begins to dissolve. Number 3, confidence becomes natural. Not forced confidence, not performative confidence, but guided certainty. Because you're no longer guessing, you're listening. Number 4, your relationships shift. You stop explaining yourself to people who don't understand you. You start connecting with people who feel you. Not because you changed who you are, but because you stopped abandoning yourself. Number 5, your path becomes clear. Not in a perfect plan kind of way, but in the next step kind of way. And that's all you ever need. Segment 5, why this feels so difficult at first. Listening to yourself sounds simple, but for many people it feels terrifying because if you truly listen, you may hear things you've been avoiding. You may realize you've outgrown certain environments, certain relationships, certain identities, and that requires courage. But here's the truth. Avoiding your truth doesn't protect you. It delays you. Segment 6, the practice of listening. Listening to yourself isn't something you master overnight. It's something you practice. And it begins with something very simple. Pause. Before you react, pause. Before you decide, pause. Before you speak, pause. And ask yourself, what do I actually feel right now? What do I know beneath the noise? And then listen. Not for the loudest answer, but for the truest one. Segment 7, the return to self. At the deepest level, listening to yourself is not about becoming someone new. It's about returning to who you've always been. Before the noise, before the conditioning, before the fear, there was clarity, there was alignment, there was truth, and it's still there, waiting. So today I invite you to begin again, not by changing your entire life, but by listening just a little more closely to yourself. Because when you finally start listening, life doesn't become louder, it becomes clearer. And from that clarity, everything else flows. Take a breath and carry this with you. You don't need more answers, you need more listening. If this episode spoke to something within you, there's a deeper journey waiting for you. A space where you don't just hear these truths, but begin to live them. The link is in the show notes.